Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, morning still. I am Iram. I am an architect. I just found out that I was not a solution architect. Okay, thank you very much. I am taller than the tallest midget in the house. Right, Minister? And my wife said to me, I am smart and I am good looking. So I'm a lot of things. So give me a round of applause for all of that. Welcome to all to the wonderful city of Freeport, the island where God chose to have me use as my birthplace. And I'm glad the minister made a quote from Jeremiah this morning. So all those things that he was talking about, he was speaking about me. And of course, some of you. I would like to say that Grand Bahama has evolved tremendously over time. We have evolved from being a pine forest to the magic city, and now we are the technology swirl on the board. To those of you who didn't recognize it, that is Grand Bahama. And we have come a very long way. Any one of you could tell me what your first telephone was? That's how important technology is. Kay, do you remember your first telephone? She said a big brick with the pull-out. Mr. Moore, you remember your first telephone? All right. My first, Mark Hume, the saying his first one was a rotary dial. Well, my first telephone was 2 peaches can and a ball of cotton line. We punched a hole in the peaches can, we fed the cotton line through it, put a knot on it. You spoke to one side, the person listened, and that was technology. And then we improved on that technology. How? We advanced our cabling system. We've got the fishing nylon line, and that was a better conductor. So we were advancing. So again, it shows how important technology is. I now have 5 limbs. I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a cell phone. I now have 2 brains. One in here, in my skull, and the second brain, a smartphone. So I'm just saying how important, and through this technology, we've advanced all of our courses tremendously. I'm here to facilitate some wonderful presenters this morning, and I'm going to invite them to join me on the stage. We have, first of all, from Ibetel Smart Solution, we have Sebastian Tickle. Mr. Tickle, can you please join me on the stage? Come on, bring him up. Thank you very much. Next we have Dr. Gadryn Higgs, our very own Dr. Gadryn Higgs. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Gadryn Higgs left Silicon Beach of the Bahamas and went to Silicon Valley. And he's going to come back now and turn us into Silicon Country. Thank you very much. We next have from Google. I call them the international spies. When I go to Google Earth, I can find you wherever you are in real time. So we're going to invite Kristie Powell from Google to also join us on stage. Come on, welcome Kristie to the... And also joining us from Microsoft, we have Xerxes Beharry. Come on, welcome. Come on, give him a real Grand Bahama welcome. Now, Derek King beat me to the deal this morning and he won the live smartphone. But I'm sure my good friend Damian Blackburn, you have 1 or 2 more. So, Damian, you can now enter the stage with my Aliv phone. So please, welcome Damian Blackburn from Aliv. And of course, the man that light us all up. The Power Man, they call him the Power Man. We're going to invite the CEO of Grand Bahama Power Company, Mr. Archie Collins, to the stage. Welcome, Archie. And ladies and gentlemen, as I spoke about my, all of the I ams that I am, I will invite each one of you to, likewise, briefly come to the mic and introduce yourself and just say what you're all about. So first of all, we're going to welcome Sebastian to the mic. Come on, welcome him.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here this morning in Freeport, Grand Bahama Island. My name is Sebastian Tickle. I'm Vice President for Business Development and Operations for Ibetel BPO Smart Solutions. Ibetel BPO Smart Solutions is a contact center nearshore vendor company which is headquartered in Jamaica with offices in Freeport, Grand Bahamas. We have offices in Montego Bay, Kingston, Freeport, Grand Bahamas, and also in Tampa, Florida. Our remit in the industry is to provide outsourced contact center services to companies which choose to send us their business to process. It's mostly inbound customer care and sales calls, but we also do outbound work. We do e-chat services, search engine optimization support, PPC marketing, and a number of other things, including back office work for companies which choose to outsource their services to us. We operate in most verticals, in most industry verticals, including travel and leisure, utilities, medical billing, retail, and a few others. And our business is really to provide a one-stop shop, first call resolution type of service to our clients within an environment where our clients feel that we're really an annex operation to their own. We've chosen Freeport, Grand Bahama Island as one of our destinations because we feel that this location in the English-speaking Caribbean has tremendous potential for growth, and as the industry itself continues to expand in terms of Fortune 100 companies deciding to send their services to nearshore locations, there's obviously a greater demand for new locations apart from the traditional ones which already exist. So for us coming to Freeport 3 years ago has been a tremendous experience, and we very much feel that we're the poster child, or the pioneers, if you will, of the nearshore outsourcing industry in the Bahamas, as represented here in Freeport, Grand Bahamas. It's a great pleasure to be here, a great honor, and very much looking forward to the panel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sebastian. And this segment here, we are speaking about logistics, infrastructure, and policy. And we're going to have next our homegrown Dr. Higgs, who would also come, and I mean, he's a hit today, who's also going to come and introduce himself and give us an overview.
It's a pleasure to be here. So to everyone here, it's a pleasure to be here. Most of you probably know me growing up, and it's amazing. So today, you know, as I think back to sort of the stories that I've had and the developments that I've had along the way, it's been a crazy journey, but the journey's not done. If I look back to sort of even growing up, my parents, family, and sort of the things that they have enabled us to do just by teaching us the right skill sets, that's some of the things that I want to be able to share with you today while over the various talks that I have. But I want to fast forward just a little bit to tell you a little bit about my background and what I've been doing in Silicon Valley. So I've been there now in and out for about the better part of 10 years, and where I'm currently at, I'm at a company where I get the opportunity to see startup development. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about what it's like to take an idea from the very beginning into something that's much bigger, that's what happens in the Valley. It happens a lot. So I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of that experience out there, and I'm happy to talk about some of that today. So, thanks.
All right, Doc. Thank you very much. Now we're going to have the power man, Mr. Archie Collins, come and also give us an overview.
Good morning. My name is Archie Collins, President and CEO of Grand Bahama Power. And again, like other speakers who have been before me, certainly delighted to have the opportunity to participate here today. For those of you who don't know my story, I arrived in Grand Bahama about 14 months ago, roughly 1 week before Hurricane Matthew arrived in Grand Bahama. And obviously it was a little bit of a trial by fire trying to get the electricity system rebuilt in the aftermath. In addition to being the president and CEO of Grand Bahama Power, I also serve as the president of Emera Caribbean, which is the holding company that would manage our investments not only in Grand Bahama, but also in Barbados, where we own the electric utility in Barbados, in Dominica, where we own 52% of that utility, and in St. Lucia, where Emera is 20% owner of the utility in St. Lucia. Clearly, for anybody who's paid attention to hurricane season this year, you would know that while here in Grand Bahama we were by and large spared from any significant storms, certainly nothing to the extent of Matthew in 2016, the island of Dominica was not so fortunate, and Maria inflicted significant damage on the island of Dominica when it passed over on September 19th. And so that rebuild effort that's going on in Dominica is something that certainly is consuming a significant percentage of my time. And the reason I'm raising that issue is because the electricity system has been so devastated. In fact, the entire island has been so devastated in Dominica that it's giving the island an opportunity to utilize technology to what we call in Domlec and in Emera, build back better. We're using it as an opportunity to rebuild that electricity system significantly differently than the old paradigm of centralized generation and long radial transmission and distribution runs. And anyway, I'll be happy to share some of that thinking and the way that Emera is thinking about technology and Grand Bahama Power a little bit later. So again, thank you very much. Looking forward to the next couple of days. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Archie. Now we're going to welcome the young man to the stage who's going to bring my live phone. Richard, can you please come?
Thank you, Iram. I'm the guy that gets the party started.
All right.
When I was reflecting there on what I was going to say and thinking about what I've done in my life so far, basically I've started parties. I was privileged to be asked to join the founding management team of Virgin Mobile in the UK, which became a worldwide brand and revolutionized the mobile industry. Worked with Richard Branson, who is an amazing entrepreneur, learned a lot from him. I was then given the privilege to come and live in Kingston, Jamaica, 10 years ago. And I was the regional CEO of Digicel, another challenger led by another visionary and entrepreneur in the region, an Irish entrepreneur called Dennis O'Brien. I spent a lot of time running around 15 islands, every point of paradise from Curacao to Bermuda. It was an amazing experience. Then, having started those parties, particularly a big one in the British Virgin Islands, with one of my colleagues here, the chairman decided, no more parties, you're going to Tegucigalpa, Honduras. I went there, had a marvelous time, learned Spanish, and then I ended up on the beachhead of Haiti. And that changes you forever. I was there really, I was the CEO of Digicel, Digicel's largest business, but I spent most of my time seeking out opportunity to help that country. The first thing we had to do was build a hotel so that international investors could be brought in to look at opportunities. We built the Marriott Hotel in Port-au-Prince. There's no banking system in Haiti that works for the majority of people there. I led a revolution which has now become the Moncash mobile money solution in Haiti, has nearly 1 million users, and is the largest mobile money deployment in the Caribbean and Central America. I was asked to get involved with a microfinance institution in Haiti. that had been founded by a Catholic priest called Father Joseph Philippe. I'm proud to chair that institution. We lend over $30 million a year to women's solidarity groups who create micro businesses in Haiti. So if you think the challenge is tough in Grand Bahama right now, trust me, look for the opportunities, seek them out, focus on them, and make this place great. It's been an absolute privilege over the last year, and it is our anniversary on Saturday, to lead the Aliv team. We've got that party started. We ask you all to join the party with Minister Thompson now and create a technology hub here in Grand Bahama. I will bring my own personal expertise. I have worked in Silicon Valley immediately before here, and I am an angel investor in ad tech and fintech solutions. So thank you very much, Grand Bahama, and the Bahamas more generally, for allowing me to come here to do this role. It's a real privilege.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Damian. And what Damian said is literally true. I met Damian for the first time at Barry's Hammond concert, and he did get the party started. All right, coming up next, we're going to have from Microsoft. Please welcome Mr. Beharry. We're going to save the ladies for last.
Hey, good morning. So my name is Xerxes Beharry. I'm a Trini. From a very young age, I wanted to be a magician. The idea of being able to make something out of nothing intrigued me. My parents, however, thought that that wasn't a viable career path. But it led me to start playing with databases and my computer. And at the age of 16, I was able to create my own business in Trinidad, selling databases to insurance agents. And that summer, I realized I was a magician. I just made something out of nothing. That then took me to pursue my education in computer engineering. And right out of college, Microsoft hired me. And there, I worked as a program manager. For those of you who don't know, a program manager basically is someone who gets handed down a vision. They said, we want you to make blah. And then it's my job to go figure out how to go do that. So I interface with the developers, the writers, marketing, legal, you name it. I am trying to coordinate all those teams and figure out how do we deliver something on schedule that meets everyone's requirements. I am really passionate about technology, and I'm really passionate about trying to move the Caribbean forward using technology. And today I hope to share some of my points of view with you on how we could do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Beharry. I really feel empowered being here today. And looking at your faces, I do believe that a lot of you, or most of you, you're very happy that you registered and you're here today because this is a brand new world and the opportunities are endless. We have an international all-star panel here, and so far all of the presentation has been wonderful. But I must say, I am from Grand Bahama, I am Bahamian, and oftentimes we overlook our very own. And looking at the presentation made by our Bahamians on the panel today, Dr. Moxie, Ken, Kimberly, Dr. Higgs, I can certainly say that we are indeed a force to be reckoned with. And even our president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, he had a little bit of technological challenges this morning. However, he was able to figure it out. And that's what we're all about, figuring out issues. We have also on the stage another all-star, a Bahamian. Yes, she's a Bahamian. I deliberately left her for the last. We're going to invite Kristie now from Google to come and make a basic introduction.
Oh, very impressive.
Wow, I hope I have something interesting to say now. Still morning? Actually afternoon. Good afternoon, Freeport. So I'm from Nassau, Bahamas, born and raised in the Bahamas. Most people don't believe that. And I'm very proud to be here today. So my background, Xerxes and I actually went to university together. So he studied computer engineering. I have a bachelor's and a master's in electrical engineering. And out of university, I was recruited by Goldman Sachs in New York City, and I worked as an associate in their engineering division. So at Goldman Sachs, I was responsible for new developments. So my team was really responsible for figuring out whether or not we wanted to go with HP or Dell, figuring out whether or not we wanted to rev to a new operating system. And at the time, in 2008, virtualization was really big, so my team was instrumental in taking the firm from hardware servers into virtualized servers, and then obviously making money was at the core, so high frequency trading became very, very important. I'm an avid snowboarder, so at some point I injured myself and I was home and Google called and I answered. 3 years ago I started working at the firm. I am a senior technical solutions consultant for Google. How many of you shop online? Every hand should go up. So those ads that follow you around, my team makes that happen, essentially is what I do. You can thank me. So in my spare time, like I mentioned, I'm very, very passionate about technology. I'm very passionate about giving back. I have been appointed by the mayor of Jersey City, newly re-elected again, and I serve on the board of directors, the board of trustees for the Jersey City Free Public Library, and I'm also very passionate about STEM, and I'm chairman of the board of directors for a nonprofit in Jersey City as well, Ionic 6 Inc. And then lastly, I'm very humbled by everyone who's on the panel. I'm very grateful that all of you have actually showed up to attend the Tech Summit. Senator Thompson, I'm 100% looking forward, sir, to seeing what you and your team do over the next 4 to 5 years in revolutionizing the country and taking it forward.
All right. Come on, give a big round of applause for that. All right, thank you very much. We have approximately 35 minutes left in this segment of the program. I'll be talking about developing Grand Bahamas, the technology hub, talking about logistics, infrastructure, and policy. Now, Sebastian, from your perspective, what do we really need from a logistical standpoint to ensure that Grand Bahamas develop as this technology hub that we're envisioning?
First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous role that the GBP has played in enabling us to set up in Freeport, Grand Bahamas as facilitators and as an organization that has supported us all along. Our acknowledgement is very sincere. In terms of what is needed, I would really speak from a perspective of the business processing outsourcing industry, which is where large organizations make decisions as to where the next destination is going to be. So it's not necessarily just from the standpoint of Ibetel BPO, but really from a standpoint of the industry being the client base. The industry has obviously changed and it keeps evolving. And whereas in the past the industry would have probably been driven mostly by cost, where companies would first go to India and then subsequently to the Philippines, clearly, once those companies come from North America, from the US and from Canada, there's a lot of travel involved, there's a lot of distance, there's a lot of time zone differences involved, which play an important role. And as the industry has evolved, offshore or offshore outsourcing has really morphed into nearshore, where nearshore has become increasingly attractive. I would say that over the past 20 years, nearshore in terms of North America and the English-speaking Caribbean, and also the setting of Central America in terms of Spanish-speaking countries, has become an increasingly attractive proposition, simply because it's close. It's often in the same time zone. The executives and the training managers and the ops managers traveling back and forth between the large corporations in the US to their nearshore centers becomes a lot easier. And also, there's the question of cultural affinity, native English-speaking population, etc. So all of these factors have played very heavily in the industry coming much closer in terms of North America to this region. So I would say that whereas the industry was probably first and chiefly and very much driven by cost in the past, today it is driven by a blend of, obviously cost plays a central role, but it's driven by a blend of trust and desire. In other words, the trust factor in a company deciding and selecting a destination in terms of their outsourced initiatives is huge, and as is the desire. In other words, how comfortable do the executives of that organization who make such a decision feel with the destination that they're sending their work to? And that becomes a very personal decision, and it plays a huge part, which is not always weighed down by cost. So as we look at the English-speaking Caribbean and we consider those factors which cause business to come in our direction, we obviously have to take the trust factor, the cost factor, the desire factor very seriously. In terms of Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, it is equally relevant, and I think as a destination, the attractiveness as a destination is undeniable. The workforce in Freeport, Grand Bahamas is ideally suited for this type of industry, for this type of business. The presentation, the enthusiasm, and the cultural affinity, which is represented by every single agent I've seen in Freeport, does absolute marvels with the market. So there's no question. The very close proximity to the US is obviously very attractive because it also underpins the cultural affinity, which is very helpful, but it also makes travel for US executives or Canadian executives very, very easy to this region. As it was pointed out several times today, 68 miles to the US mainland, 27 minutes from Miami International Airport to Freeport. I mean, that's not near shore, that's ultra near shore. And the reality is that there is no other destination on the planet which is offshore, literally, and which is that close to the US. And that destination is Freeport, Grand Bahama Island. Yeah, I'll continue. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. And I was just advised that everyone have their headpiece. We did a mic check. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
All right. Oh, we all on. This is technology. We up to speed. Now, Dr. Higgs, you left the wonderful beaches of the Bahamas and you went all the way to Silicon Valley. And based on your experience, how practical, from a logistical standpoint, is it for us to really realize the dream of being the technology hub that we are now envisioning?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just one thing I want to correct in there. I was in Michigan before I went to California.
Okay.
So cold. It's very cold, very cold. But going back to your question about logistics, and I also want to tie in infrastructure in there, if I may, as well.
Sure.
When I think about just sort of my experiences there in the Valley, and I think about sort of what it's like to be able to create something and have it grow from a very early young stage to something that's bigger. And the way in which the world is evolving now, particularly as it relates to technology, you'd be surprised to know how little of, or how little things you need in order to be able to get to prove certain milestones that can get you to the next level. And let me clarify what I mean by that. If we think of, let's say, the Google boys, as they like to call them, they started at Stanford, right? They started in a dorm room at Stanford they pretty much only had, access to high-speed Wi-Fi. Right. And that's pretty much all that they needed, right? If we think of a lot of the other things from social media, from Twitter to Snap, and a lot of these other companies, when they're in this sort of a tech space, there isn't really a big need for a lot of land. The needs are relatively simple, you know, reliable internet and good power, and really from there you can continue to build from there until you prove your points, and then that's when you start to have bigger needs per se. So when we think back to sort of Grand Bahama and what that means from a logistics and infrastructure standpoint, we have already in place some of those things that really just need to be tapped into to unlock them. And that way, we'd have sort of the core competencies that would be needed to start up something like this. So when I think of the typical startup example, I think of someone who's in a garage, who they're probably in their parents' garage and they're building their company that way, right? How cool would it be for you to do that right here, and you're looking out on the beach every day, starting your company? So when you're in that space, the reality is it doesn't take at least a whole lot of infrastructure per se if you're in sort of that pure tech space. Hardware, slightly different story, but pure tech where it's mostly internet driven, it's doesn't require a whole lot.
Excellent. All right. You know, I feel kind of bad right now that you all have your headsets on, and I'm the facilitator and I don't have one. So I'll just put on my phone headset just to look techno-savvy, so I can fit in, I can blend in with them. Thank you very much, Dr. Higgs, and you know, it speaks to the fact that, y'all laughing at me. Do I look fit for the job now? Albert Einstein said that the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. And you just spoke to that. You know, you can start from your garage or wherever, and the world, the sky is the limit. Richard, I'm sorry, Archie. The president spoke about the smart meters, the smart city of Freeport, the smart meter. You're the CEO of Grand Bahama Power Company. Bearing in mind the smart city approach, from your perspective, logistically, and from policy position, how do you see us moving forward with this initiative?
Can you hear me okay? So I guess I think first of all the point I'd like to make is that the traditional model, the model on how electricity has been generated and distributed and used by customers really hasn't changed for about the past 100 years. Not since Thomas Edison first invented alternating current. It's really been the model we have today, same model that's always existed. And that is centralized generation, like we would have in Grand Bahama, where you have a power plant down at the west end of the island, down around Peel Street, and the West Sunrise plant, and then long run, many poles, you know, here in Grand Bahama, 25,000 poles that are moving power all around the island, and people using it, and having limited ability to control how they use it, not a lot of information on their habits or how they could better manage their habits or better manage their consumption or their power bill. And all of that is changing. That whole traditional model is changing, and it's changing really, really quickly. And certainly for anyone who's living in California, you know, you're really on top of how that model, that traditional paradigm is changing. And you know, in Grand Bahama, certainly within Emera, we are embracing the change. It would be foolish for utilities to sort of hang on to that old model and hope that it will never change, because what's happening in the power industry is very analogous to what happened in the telephone industry, that Minister Lewis spoke about earlier on. That there was a time when we all had landlines. My first telephone was a rotary phone, and we had a what did they used to call it? We had multiple people party lines, they called it. I don't know if you know what party lines. So in our home was 2 long rings. We knew if it was 2 long rings, that was, we had to pick it up. When you picked up the phone, you knew that all your neighbors were listening to the entire conversation. And look how far we've come. Right now, it's everybody now has a cell phone. That same
journey that has happened in the telecommunications industry is going to happen in the power industry. Emera really believes that. The technology is going to disrupt the traditional model. And so you're beginning to see that now, more of a move towards distributed generation, not centralized generation. Certainly a lot of renewable generation, a lot of storage, people having storage in their own home, people having storage in electric cars. And so, you know, smart meters, advanced meters, smart grid, all of these things together are what ultimately constitutes this smart city philosophy. And, you know, in Grand Bahama, at Grand Bahama Power, we are in the early stages of, you know, bringing energy storage to the island, something that we didn't really have the option to do it cost effectively 10 years ago, but we now are well on our way to having large-scale storage that will have the effect of improving reliability, displacing thermal generation, becomes an enabler for renewable investment, and it smooths out the frequency issue that we have here in Grand Bahama. So well on our way in that regard. As Minister Lois would know, we have some pretty exciting, innovative things that we're doing over on the small island of Waterkey. Bringing, again, partnering with Tesla and local solar developers to install a solar array on the island of Waterkey and ultimately move that island towards 100% renewable is really our vision over in Waterkey. So that's a little bit of a test bed, a little bit of a test that we're doing in Waterkey to ultimately begin doing more. So the whole concept of the smart city is real. As a power company, we are embracing it. It starts with the storage. We're moving into advanced metering. One of our local engineers who's present here today is leading an AMI investment where we intend to roll out smart meters all across Grand Bahama. And the mesh that's associated with that, you just can begin to build on it, and it becomes the bones of the smart city. So we are on our way. It's just a matter of time before these sort of cutting-edge technologies that form the foundation of the smart city will be right here in Freeport and in Grand Bahama.
All right, excellent. Can you hear me? Am I on? Hey, I've come a long way from the peaches can, right? I'm now wireless. Not Oprah Winfrey now. I feel like Michael Strahan, a real talk show host. Damian, your perspective from the logistical standpoint, and also what infrastructure that we will need also to make this work.
Well, it's interesting. I was just listening to some of the answers there. I think there's a tendency to focus on what we don't have. Every entrepreneur who's ever lived focuses on not what they've not got now, but where they're going to be in the future. Yeah? To me, and the first time I met Minister Thompson discussing this in the summer, we had a great 2 or 3 hours. We've got the same kind of energy. And Ian Roll, the first time I met him 18 months ago. You've got everything. Look at the enthusiasm in the room.
Yes.
Right? That's the first thing, yeah. We've got great infrastructure here in Grand Bahama. You know, you've now got a world-class LTE network. Didn't exist a year ago. The reliability that my team has got. But just think about that as a story for a minute. And this is not an absolute plug. On the 1st of July 2016, I was handed a license by Stephen Barrow at Urca. I didn't have a team. I didn't even have an office. I didn't have funds. I was given some money. I wasn't given enough money. There were so many things I could have sat there and used it as an excuse not to do what we've done, but I didn't allow it to happen. I didn't allow any excuse. If somebody got in the way, my team or I got them out of the way. Because we're on a mission in Aliv to bring world-class LTE network service to every Bahamian, whether they're in Inagua or in Grand Bahama. And that's what we've done. And lots of people didn't believe us at the beginning. Lots of great Bahamians joined me on that mission. They took huge risks with their careers, with their reputations, to follow this mad Yorkshireman who'd arrived in the Bahamas, washed up on the beach. Yeah. And that is the story of what needs to happen next from this summit. People need to go out there and not focus on what we haven't got. You don't, you know, the guys in the garage, the Google guys, they didn't have it, but they had a dream of what they were going to do. And look what happened. They built companies that employ great Caribbean nationals. So don't focus on what you don't have. Think about what you've got. You've got a low-tax environment, even a no-tax environment. I think Donovan there was bidding for some corporation tax. I didn't know that existed in the Bahamas, Donovan. I don't know if I agreed with that. There's no tax. There's a no-tax environment. You know, my friend here who's living in Silicon Valley, I've worked in Silicon Valley. It's one of the most frustrating places I have actually been to build a business or live. Rents are high. There's no hotel rooms. We have a hotel here, ready, right? There's no hotel rooms in Silicon Valley. You try and book one, and if you get one, they're $400 a night, yeah? Okay? It's difficult for entrepreneurs to find somewhere to rent near where they're gonna set up their first offices. Commercial real estate is through the roof, yeah, in terms of pricing. All of that spare capacity is here in Grand Bahama. Can be put to work tomorrow if the people with their hands on the rudder just make a few right decisions. There is one issue to solve if you're going to attract international companies. I think blockchain-backed ventures have had about 8 billion invested into them in the last 4 months alone. This could be the center for blockchain, the stuff these guys talked about. You have to solve the immigration issue. Visas need to be issued if that's going to be the strategy. Right? Because those people will need to get... Now, it's brilliant time to solve it because Donald Trump's doing the opposite. Right? He stopped the H-1B visa scheme that tens of thousands of Indians in Silicon Valley came to help build Silicon Valley. And he's stopping it. Little opportunity there, Minister. Like, seize the day from tomorrow and make these things happen. Don't blame what you haven't got.
This will be my first time saying thank you to Donald Trump.
He's a friend as well.
Absolutely. Kristie.
Tough question. So honestly, Xerxes and I participated in a talk show that was streaming live outside, and one of the moderators made a joke and said that in Freeport, there's a mantra right now that says, buy local, from Bahamians, etc. You guys are aware of that, right? Okay. I've listened over the last year and a half to a lot of great businessmen and entrepreneurs in the Bahamas and talk about the technology that they're using and leveraging inside their businesses. And my first question to them always is, the technology that you built, who built it? The code that was written, who wrote it?
Yes.
And none of those answers were ever a Bahamian. So to the youngsters back in the room, an age-old question is always, why don't you Bahamian return home to come and work? And the answer is exactly the same as the question that I just asked, which is you're not giving Bahamians an opportunity to do it. So you're not investing in your own. So you want me to buy local. You're breeding local, yes, but you're not giving the local the opportunity to do it. So there's someone in the back there right now. That's gospel. That's true.
Yes.
So you have software developers who have the talent. All of the problems that we're trying to solve, I agree with you. We shouldn't focus on what we don't have. We should focus on what we do have, because we do have the infrastructure. We do have great networks. We do have fiber. So connectivity is not the issue. The problems that we're trying to solve are not new. They've been solved all over the world, time and time again. What we're lacking is foresight. I shared with Senator Thompson when we had an opportunity to chat outside. I've seen it, you know, we talk about government after government. There's very little bipartisanship in the Bahamas. That's a different story altogether. Most of the government offices are head and led by lawyers. I have no disrespect for lawyers. I have lots of them in my family. They can cite articles from here, and I would have no idea what it is that they're saying. I would not be able to tell my head from my tail.
Right.
As a technologist and as an engineer, I can talk to them about the same thing, and they too will not be able to tell their head from their tail. So I can sell them anything. My point is, people in government and in enterprise need to surround themselves with people who have engineering degrees, and there are lots of...
And architects.
So, in those moments when they're trying to figure out how am I going to get from point A to point C, they're not being misguided. They know clearly what it is that they're trying to do, and by reinvesting in your own people, I can guarantee you your money will stay in this country and circulate. So, as we think about the economy and trying to grow it, why would you invest in me if I was a foreigner when I know I'm only going to take my money outside of the country?
All right, come on.
We need foreign investment. I worked for Goldman Sachs. I understand foreign investment and what it does, but what I'm trying to get everyone in this room to understand is that those young children in the back there need an opportunity. They need a chance. I'm looking to you. You mentioned up there that you were an investor in ad tech and fintech. I'm sure there's someone in this audience who's interested or wants to start their own company, and they're looking to you now to invest, because that's not a mindset that most Bahamians have.
I've been scouting while I've been here, trust me.
So it's important for those like Mr. Blackburn and other people in the audience who have access to capital to lend this capital, to take a chance.
You're right.
And that risk.
You're absolutely right. Wonderful.
But that's just my opinion.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
You know, if I was Oprah Winfrey right now, I'd say girl power. But I'm not. So I just say brain power. Our good neighbor from Trinidad.
What she said. But seriously, I mean, what she did say was serious. One of my current projects that I work on is HoloLens. It's the world's first self-contained holographic computer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's, science fiction, science fact sort of stuff. And this is a really hard project. It spans software teams and hardware teams, and multiple software teams and multiple hardware teams. So really hard, but we don't shy away from hard problems. The Bahama wanting to become a tech hub is a hard problem. But one of the things when I reflect, one of the things that made us successful as a team is that we had clear guidance and accountability. In order for you to be a tech hub, you need academia churning out a workforce that is skilled. Then you need, as Kristie said, you need private sector to commit to using local talent and using that local workforce. Then you need the government paving the way, making policies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so you need all three entities working in concert. You can't have one do anything without the other.
You're right.
And so, when I look back, at our success, multiple software, hardware teams, etc. But there needs to be a team that's, guiding and holding those entities accountable for putting these things in place in order to become a tech hub. And so, in terms of logistics, I think there needs to be a team that's there to provide guidance and accountability.
Excellent, excellent. We have approximately seven minutes left in this segment, and oftentimes we talk about our country being brain drained. And there were a few of us who returned home, like Senator Kay and Mark Helms, our Minister of State, and several of us in the audience made a determination to come back home to build our country. We experienced a lot of frustration, and I was offered a top job upon graduation from college, but I decided I wanted to come home. And it's very frustrating. But I'm determined to stay here and to work to build a better country. We have two very smart Bahamians sitting on the stage, speaking of their experiences outside of the country. Kristie very briefly, and Dr. Higgs very briefly, you tell us as the government, what would it take to get someone like you to return home to help us to build this country for technology hub? And see, that's the minister. Put us on the spot. Yeah, I know, besides money. Go right ahead.
I'm up first.
Yes, you can go first. You lead.
All right. So when I think about the experiences that I've had, it's not always been rosy, right? There've been a lot of frustrations and challenges as well. And so even as someone being abroad, you sort of face these challenges. So if I were to think about what it would look like for me to be here in an environment like Grand Bahama, that's a loaded question. There's a lot on the table. There's a lot of things that I look for, and there are a lot of things that I consider. I love Grand Bahama. I'm here all the time. My parents are still here, and we talk a lot about what it's like to be in Grand Bahama. Even though I'm not here, I don't want to make it seem as though I'm disconnected from Grand Bahama. So just the other week, my cousins and I were on the phone and we were talking about some business development and business opportunities. And even yesterday after dinner, I was having another conversation with a colleague of mine. And even abroad, I'm still being able to plug in to the network to feel as though I'm still contributing. So in that way, that's sort of my opportunity to help give back until such a point should it come that I'm back here in Grand Bahama sort of permanently. But I was discussing earlier with some of my colleagues here on stage about what that sort of looks like, and there are certain things that make you feel a little bit more comfortable and reassuring where we may be in the US. And some of those things, sure, they might be like compensation, but more so it's just, I would say, reinforcement and also sort of accountability that the dreams that you set in place, they can be realized, they can be materialized. Because I'm sure you've experienced some of the frustration yourself in terms of having ideas that you would want to execute on and then being able to give up something else that you already feel can give you some comfort and some level of assurance in hopes and anticipation of what you would be able to get here. And I think really what we're looking for is we're just looking for a little bit more reassurance and a little bit more comfort, such that we don't feel as though we're leaving something on the table to make that switch. What we really want to feel as though we have a golden opportunity and we're here to seize it.
Wonderful.
So the opportunity cost of returning home is certainly high, but I'm sure all of you remember the cartoon Pinky and the Brain. I swear to you, every morning I wake up and I feel like I can change the world.
Change the world, yes.
What would it take for Kristie to return home? An investor and the government, so public as well as enterprise, to believe in an idea that I have and to support me through it. And I have tons of ideas. I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're revolutionary. But the lack of support is what keeps me working at Google and Microsoft and Goldman Sachs.
Sebastian?
If I may, I'd like to also make a comment. Damian and Kristie actually, I think, hit the nail on the head. In terms, we have everything that's needed here. In real terms, nothing really needs to be added. There's technology, there's resilience, there's the workforce, either in actual terms or potentially from other parts of the Bahamas or from overseas. There's the proximity, there's everything is here to make it work. And I think the central component here, to your question, at the end of the day, it's economic activity. It begets itself and it grows, it becomes dynamic. Right. And once the economic activity here becomes more and more vibrant, that in of itself becomes exponential and then grows in every direction, and everyone comes home and everything grows. Now, an example from the perspective of my industry, once a large account comes and decides to outsource to Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, it's a conscious, it's a deliberate decision. That large account brings 500 agents, 1,000 agents. Those 1,000 agents draw attention and then bring another 3,000. So it's a case of the analogy of ducks in a row, which is kind of a silly analogy because you imagine all these little yellow ducks in a row. But at the end of the day, if a duck is missing, it's not going to work. If they're just not in a row, it's a matter of calibrating and bringing it to the point where we start having that dynamic grow and become something very tangible. And in terms of this summit and what it represents in terms of technology, infrastructure, and policy, I think it's a case where once we talk about very good connectivity with the mainland, with the US mainland, which there is in actual terms, yes. Fantastic service levels in terms of service levels and support in terms of that connectivity, which there's always room for improvement in that industry. Once we talk about cost becoming consistent in terms of connectivity and in terms of power and in terms of infrastructure, becoming consistent with what's found in North America in general, we're suddenly talking about a very attractive proposition which draws attention. And then, of course, last but not least, in terms of policy, once everyone, including the authorities, make a conscious decision to promote Freeport Grand Bahama yes. as a tech hub, as a destination, where executives in the US won't necessarily be force-fed the concept by individuals such as myself, but will actually know about it. In other words, someone says Freeport, and some guy in Colorado says, hold on, Freeport. I know, I heard something about Freeport. Right. That's the point we need to get to and beyond in order to get to that trigger.
Agree. All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a stickler for time. And even though the Prime Minister has left the room, we have some very powerful politicians still in the room, and I saw them taking notes. The Minister for Grand Bahama taking notes, and I'm sure he'll put some of those ideas into action. We have the President of the Senate sitting right next to him. Behind them, we have another parliamentarian who will carry the news to the right environment to ensure that these policies are put in place so that Grand Bahama can really become known as that technology hub. Oh, no, I'm a talk show host today. I'm not a politician. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have one to say, one comment. You know, as we start to think about whatever we're doing and we make steps, we think about the next steps, I want to make sure that we also include women and girls in the conversation and bring them to the table.
Yes, sir. You know, yes, sir.
The last stat that I saw, I think women and girls represent 57% of the population in the Bahamas. And that's just not 50% of the population, that's 50% of one of the assets that you all have.
Wow.
And you need to make sure you include them. So,
Brother Beharry, I tell you what, if you wasn't like me, a married man, you're not going to leave it a day the way you came in. So ladies and gentlemen, can you all please stand and take a bow and give them a resounding round of applause for a wonderful job. Excellent presentation. We appreciate all of you. And we'll see you around. Thank you. Thank you, Kristie. Welcome back home. Once again, thank you very much. We're going to take a quick lunch break.